They told my son with ADHD to shut up during the talent show. They didn't expect the judge's reaction. I never thought that one Thursday afternoon would completely change how our entire community viewed my son Lucas and his ADHD. My name is Maria, I'm 38 years old, and for the past 10 years I've been fighting a daily battle that many parents know all too well, defending my child from a world that doesn't understand neurodivergence. Lucas was diagnosed with ADHD when he was 6 years old. The signs were there from early childhood. He couldn't sit still for more than 5 minutes, had trouble focusing on tasks that didn't interest him, and would often interrupt conversations with bursts of energy that seemed to come from nowhere. But what many people didn't see was his incredible creativity, his ability to think outside the box, and his genuine desire to help others. The problems started in first grade. Mrs. Henderson, his teacher, would constantly send notes home saying that Lucas was disruptive, couldn't follow simple instructions, and was affecting other students' learning. Every parent-teacher conference felt like a tribunal where I had to defend my son's right to exist in their classroom. Maybe you should consider homeschooling, she suggested during one particularly tense meeting. Some children just aren't cut out for traditional education. I remember feeling my heart sink. Here was an educator, someone who was supposed to nurture and guide children, essentially giving up on my 7-year-old son. But if you believe that every child deserves understanding and support regardless of how their brain works, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for more stories about the power of acceptance and inclusion. By the time Lucas reached 4th grade, the situation had only gotten worse. The new teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, seemed to have even less patience for Lucas's energy and spontaneous comments. During math class, when Lucas would raise his hand excitedly to share a different way to solve a problem, Mr. Rodriguez would sigh audibly and say, "Lucas, we're doing it this way. Please try to keep up with the rest of the class." The other kids began to notice. During recess, I would often find Lucas sitting alone on the bench while the other children played. When I asked him why, he would just shrug and say, "They think I'm weird, Mom. They say I talk too much and can't play games right." It broke my heart. This brilliant, creative, loving child was being made to feel like there was something fundamentally wrong with him. The worst part was that I could see his self-confidence crumbling day by day. He started saying things like, "I wish my brain was normal, and why can't I just be like everyone else?" The medication helped with some symptoms, but it also seemed to dim his natural sparkle. His appetite decreased, he had trouble sleeping, and while he could sit still longer, he seemed less Lucas. It was a constant balancing act between helping him function in a system that wasn't designed for him and preserving the essence of who he was. Then came the announcement about the annual school talent show. Every year, Lincoln Elementary would host this event where students could showcase their special abilities. Lucas's eyes lit up when he heard about it. "Mom, I want to participate," he said, bouncing on his toes with excitement. "I have an idea for something really cool." I felt a mixture of pride and anxiety. Lucas had always been drawn to music and rhythm. He could create beats with anything, pencils on desks, spoons on tables, even just clapping his hands. But I worried about how the other kids and teachers would react to his performance. "What did you have in mind, sweetheart?" I asked. "I want to do a percussion performance, but not with regular instruments. I want to use everyday objects and show how music is everywhere around us." His enthusiasm was infectious. For the first time in months, I saw that spark back in his eyes. We spent the next 2 weeks preparing. Lucas chose items from around the house, glass bottles, wooden spoons, metal pots, cardboard boxes, and created an incredible rhythm arrangement. His ADHD brain, which teachers saw as a liability, allowed him to hear patterns and rhythms that others missed. The night before the talent show, we practiced one final time in our living room. Lucas's performance was genuinely impressive. He had created a complex rhythm that told a story, building from a simple beat to a crescendo that gave me chills. His movements were perfectly synchronized, his timing was impeccable, and his joy was unmistakable. "You're going to be amazing tomorrow," I told him as I tucked him into bed. "I hope so, Mom. I really want to show everyone that I can do something special too." The day of the talent show arrived. The school gymnasium was packed with parents, teachers, and students. Lucas was scheduled to perform 5th out of 12 acts. I sat in the front row, my heart pounding with nervous excitement. The first 4 performances went smoothly. There was a girl who played violin, twin brothers who did magic tricks, a boy who recited poetry, and a girl who performed a dance routine. Each act received polite applause from the audience. Then it was Lucas's turn. He walked onto the stage carrying a large box filled with his instruments. He was wearing his favorite blue shirt and had a huge smile on his face. He began setting up his items, arranging bottles by size, positioning the pots strategically, placing the wooden spoons within easy reach. "Hi everyone," he said into the microphone, his voice clear and confident. "My name is Lucas and I'm going to show you that music is everywhere around us. We don't need fancy instruments to make beautiful sounds. We just need to listen and be creative." He started with a simple beat on the cardboard box. Thump, thump, thump. Then he added the wooden spoons on the metal pot. Ting, ting, ting. Gradually, he incorporated all his items, creating layers of rhythm that built into something truly spectacular. But then something went wrong. In his excitement, Lucas started adding verbal sound effects to his performance, boom, boom, pow, mimicking the sounds of his makeshift instruments. It was part of his creative process, the way his ADHD brain naturally enhanced the experience. "Shut up," came a voice from the audience. "Just play the instruments." Lucas stopped mid-performance, his face flushing red. The voice had come from Mrs. Patterson, the parent of one of his classmates. Other parents began murmuring in agreement. "He's being too loud," someone whispered. "This isn't music, it's noise," another parent said. "Can't he just play normally like the other kids?" Mr. Rodriguez stepped forward from the side of the stage. "Lucas, maybe you should stick to just the instruments. No vocal additions." Lucas looked out at the audience, then at me. I could see the hurt in his eyes, the familiar look of defeat that I'd seen too many times before. He was about to give up, to conform to what others expected of him. But then something unexpected happened. A man in the back row stood up. He was well-dressed, probably in his 50s, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. I didn't recognize him, but he walked confidently toward the stage. "Excuse me," he said, his voice carrying across the gymnasium. "I'm Dr. James Mitchell, and I'm one of the judges for today's talent show. I'm also a music therapist who has worked with thousands of children over the past 20 years. The gymnasium fell silent. Dr. Mitchell climbed onto the stage and stood next to Lucas, who was still frozen with embarrassment. "What you just witnessed," Dr. Mitchell continued, addressing the audience, "is not a child being disruptive. What you witnessed is a young musician using a technique called extended vocal percussion, a legitimate and highly advanced musical skill that many professional performers spend years trying to master." He turned to Lucas. "Son, what you were doing is called beatboxing combined with percussion performance. It's incredibly difficult and requires exceptional rhythm, timing, and creativity. Would you be willing to show everyone how it's supposed to be done?" Lucas looked uncertain. "But they said I was too loud." "Lucas," Dr. Mitchell said gently, "some of the greatest musicians in history were told they were too loud, too different, too unconventional. Your ADHD doesn't make you less of a musician, it makes you a different kind of musician. And different is exactly what the world needs." The audience was completely silent now. Dr. Mitchell continued, "You see, Lucas has what we call neurodivergent creativity. His ADHD brain processes rhythm and sound in ways that neurotypical brains often can't. He hears patterns and possibilities that others miss. This isn't a limitation, it's a gift." He looked out at the audience, his voice becoming more passionate. "I've worked with Grammy-winning musicians who have ADHD. I've seen children like Lucas grow up to become music producers, composers, and performers who change the world with their unique perspectives. But only if we stop trying to force them into boxes that were never meant for them." Lucas was listening intently, his confidence slowly returning. Dr. Mitchell knelt down to his level. "Would you like to try again? This time, I want you to perform exactly the way your heart tells you to. Use your voice, use your instruments, use every part of your musical gift." Lucas nodded, wiping away a tear. "Okay. I'll try." What happened next was nothing short of magical. Lucas restarted his performance, but this time he let his ADHD brain fully guide him. He created a complex rhythm with his household items while adding vocal percussion that perfectly complemented each beat. His body moved naturally with the music. His energy channeled into something beautiful and powerful. The sound he created was unlike anything I'd ever heard. It was innovative, complex, and deeply moving. He told a story through rhythm, starting with the gentle patter of rain, tapping lightly on the bottles, building to a thunderstorm, combining all instruments with powerful vocal beats, and ending with the peaceful calm after the storm, a soft, steady rhythm on the cardboard box. When he finished, the gymnasium was silent for several seconds. Then Dr. Mitchell began clapping, and slowly, the entire audience joined in. But this wasn't polite applause. This was genuine appreciation for something extraordinary. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dr. Mitchell announced, "what you just witnessed is why we need to change how we think about neurodivergence. Lucas didn't perform despite his ADHD. He performed brilliantly because of it. Mrs. Patterson, the parent who had shouted for Lucas to shut up, stood up. Her face was red with embarrassment. I'm sorry. I didn't understand. I thought he was just being disruptive. That's exactly the problem, Dr. Mitchell replied kindly but firmly. We live in a society that sees neurodivergent behavior as inherently problematic instead of potentially gifted. Lucas isn't broken and doesn't need to be fixed. He needs to be understood and supported. Mr. Rodriguez approached the stage, looking uncomfortable. Dr. Mitchell, I'm Lucas's teacher. I have to admit, I've been struggling with how to handle his energy in class. Maybe I've been approaching this wrong. It's never too late to learn, Dr. Mitchell said. ADHD children often have incredible strengths, hyperfocus on subjects they're passionate about, creative problem-solving abilities, high energy that can be channeled productively, and often, exceptional artistic talents. The key is learning how to nurture these strengths instead of only focusing on the challenges. He turned back to the audience. Did you know that many successful entrepreneurs, artists, and innovators have ADHD? Richard Branson, founder of Virgin Group. Justin Timberlake, Grammy-winning musician. Simone Biles, Olympic gymnast. Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian of all time. These individuals didn't succeed despite their ADHD. They succeeded because they learned to harness their unique neurological gifts. The audience was completely captivated. Dr. Mitchell continued, the statistics are actually quite encouraging when we provide proper support. Children with ADHD who receive understanding and appropriate interventions often show higher levels of creativity, entrepreneurship, and leadership than their neurotypical peers. But this only happens when we stop seeing them as problems to be solved and start seeing them as minds to be nurtured. Lucas was beaming now, standing taller with each word. Dr. Mitchell placed a hand on his shoulder. Lucas, I want you to know that what you did today took incredible courage. You shared your gift with people who didn't initially understand it, and you didn't give up when faced with criticism. That's the mark of a true artist. The talent show continued, but something had fundamentally changed in that gymnasium. Parents were looking at their own children differently, teachers were questioning their approaches, and most importantly, Lucas was seeing himself through new eyes. When the judges announced the winners at the end of the show, Lucas won first place. But more than that, he had won something far more valuable: the respect and understanding of his community. After the event, dozens of parents approached us. Some apologized for their earlier reactions. Others shared stories of their own neurodivergent children. Mrs. Patterson came up to us with tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry for what I said earlier, she told Lucas. That was wrong of me. Your performance was incredible, and I learned something important today about not judging what I don't understand. Lucas, with the grace that had always been part of his character, simply said, it's okay. Sometimes people need to learn about ADHD just like I had to learn about it too. Dr. Mitchell approached us as we were preparing to leave. Lucas, I run a music therapy program for neurodivergent children. Would you be interested in joining? I think you have real potential as a musician and could help other kids like you discover their own gifts. Lucas looked at me with excitement. Can I, Mom? Please. Of course, sweetheart. I think it sounds perfect. Dr. Mitchell handed me his card. Mrs. Santos, I also work with schools to help them create more inclusive environments for neurodivergent students. Would you be interested in having me speak with Lucas's teachers about ADHD-friendly classroom strategies? For the first time in years, I felt hope. Yes, absolutely. That would be wonderful. Over the following weeks, things began to change at Lincoln Elementary. Dr. Mitchell conducted workshops for teachers about neurodivergence. Mr. Rodriguez completely transformed his teaching approach, incorporating movement breaks, allowing for different learning styles, and finding ways to channel Lucas's energy productively. Lucas began thriving in ways I never thought possible. His grades improved not because his ADHD was cured, but because his learning environment finally accommodated how his brain worked. He was allowed to fidget with stress balls during lessons, take walking breaks when needed, and even help other students with creative projects. The music therapy program became a huge part of Lucas's life. He learned to play traditional instruments while also developing his unique percussion style. More importantly, he met other neurodivergent children and realized he wasn't alone. Together, they formed a small ensemble that performed at community events, spreading awareness about neurodivergence through music. 6 months after the talent show, Lucas was invited to perform at the district's annual education conference. This time, he wasn't just playing for an audience, he was helping to educate administrators and teachers about the importance of inclusive education. "Hi everyone," he said confidently into the microphone. "My name is Lucas, I'm 10 years old, and I have ADHD. A year ago, I thought that meant something was wrong with me. Today, I know it means my brain works differently, and that's actually pretty cool." He launched into a performance that was even more sophisticated than his talent show piece. But this time, the entire audience understood what they were witnessing, not a child with a disorder, but a young artist with a gift. After his performance, Lucas spoke to the audience about his experience. "ADHD means I think fast, I have lots of energy, and I see patterns other people might miss. It also means I sometimes have trouble sitting still and I might interrupt people when I get excited. But none of it makes me bad or broken. It just makes me, me." The standing ovation lasted several minutes. Later, several school districts requested Dr. Mitchell's consultation services to help them create more inclusive environments for neurodivergent students. That evening, as I tucked Lucas into bed, he looked at me with bright eyes. "Mom, do you think other kids with ADHD will see my performance and feel better about themselves?" "I hope so, sweetheart. I think you're showing them that being different isn't something to hide from, it's something to celebrate." "Good," he said sleepily. "Because I like being different now. It makes me special." Today, Lucas is thriving in ways that seemed impossible just a year ago. He's not cured of his ADHD, he's learned to embrace it as part of who he is. His teachers now see his interruptions as enthusiasm rather than disruption. His classmates appreciate his creativity and energy. And most importantly, he sees himself as gifted rather than problematic. The talent show incident taught our entire community a valuable lesson about neurodivergence. It showed us that when we stop trying to force square pegs into round holes and instead create spaces where different shapes can thrive, everyone benefits. Dr. Mitchell continued to work with our school district, and the changes have been remarkable. Teachers report higher engagement from all students, not just neurodivergent ones, when they incorporate movement, creativity, and different learning styles into their lessons. The school has become a model for inclusive education that other districts are now studying. Lucas still faces challenges. ADHD doesn't disappear, and there are still days when focusing is difficult or when his energy overwhelms him. But now he has tools, understanding, and most importantly, a community that sees his neurological differences as valuable rather than problematic. The most beautiful change has been in Lucas himself. He no longer asks why he can't be normal. Instead, he asks how he can use his unique gifts to help others. He's become an advocate for neurodivergent students, speaking at school assemblies and helping younger children understand that different doesn't mean less than. This experience taught me that as parents, our job isn't to fix our children, it's to help them understand themselves and advocate for environments where they can flourish. Lucas didn't need to change, the world around him needed to change its perspective. If you're a parent of a neurodivergent child reading this, please know that your child is not broken. They don't need to be fixed. They need to be understood, supported, and given opportunities to shine in their own unique way. And if you're an educator or work with children, remember that neurodivergent minds often hold the keys to innovation, creativity, and solutions that neurotypical minds might miss. The talent show that started as a moment of humiliation became a catalyst for transformation. It reminded us all that true inclusion isn't about making everyone the same. It's about creating spaces where everyone can be authentically themselves and contribute their unique gifts to the world. Lucas's story is still being written, and I can't wait to see how his beautiful, energetic, creative ADHD brain continues to change the world around him.